This issue was the first thing that the court brought up this morning. The prosecution stood up and said that last night they did conduct an investigation, and the witness who had initially provided them the note also provided them a written statement. And that says to me that that witness felt confident enough to make a written statement. Apparently, this material ended up on YouTube. The prosecution wanted a contempt hearing immediately. The prosecution also wanted Michelle Troconis' mother to be ejected. The prosecution alleged that Michelle's mother tapped her on the shoulder, and the way the prosecution framed it was that she was letting Michelle know that she was going to be caught. What happened was Michelle's mother tapped her on the shoulder, and Michelle then turned off her computer screen. So I don't know if it was you're going to get caught or you shouldn't have this on your screen. I don't know what actually happened. Then it came out that the issue that was previously described, where the mother had allegedly mouthed something to the jury, well, that had been addressed at sidebar. So the defense did know about that. And the defense did say that they would speak with Michelle's mother about that. It's understandable that the prosecution would want her ejected. The defense stood up and said they've spoken with the media repeatedly to make sure that their privacy was protected, that what's on these computer monitors is not broadcast. And the media has repeatedly reassured them that, no, we're not showing this. We're abiding by your wishes here. We are not showing this stuff. Well, how then does the stuff get on YouTube? The defense said that the prosecution's characterization of Michelle's mother helping her avoid being caught is an inference. I agree that it's an inference. However, it is a at least plausible inference to make. The defense made reference to negative comments toward the defense from the gallery and said that they've been trying to ignore those and focus on just conducting their trial. The accused does not have a computer today. That was it from the defense on that. And what I noticed here is the lack of something. And what they didn't say, what they didn't address at all, was that Michelle had this document that she wasn't supposed to have. So that wasn't even spoken to by the defense. So I see a problem. The judge said the court will not countenance competing pep rallies. The judge said that efforts from either side to communicate with the jury or witnesses from supporters of either side will result in removal from the courtroom. There won't be a hearing. You're out. There will be a contempt hearing scheduled. The judge said the earliest date at which this will be scheduled is once the defense rests. The prosecution called a witness who worked for what was formerly the People's Bank. He worked in security. We're looking at video of the ATM on West Main in Avon, and that is the bank machine close to that car wash. On Wednesday, May 29th at 2:31 p.m. In the video, you can clearly see both Fotis and Michelle. If you compare Fotis's clothing here with the video we saw from the man in the car wash making a payment in cash, it's obvious that it was Fotis. The clothing is the same. The guy looks the same. So anybody who might have wanted to argue or doubt that it was maybe not Fotis can't really reasonably argue that at this point. Also, the times line up. And clearly, Michelle was with him. The cross-examination seemed more exploratory rather than challenging. The defense didn't get anything out of it. The prosecution put on the record that when he questioned witness Kristen Maydell, he had asked that witness to assume that Michelle was holding a bag open for Fotis, and that could be a reason why her DNA could get on a garbage bag. And the witness at that time had said yes, and the prosecutor now says that he misspoke. That is not what Michelle said in her interview. And so the hypothetical and the answer should be struck. The next witness was John Kimball again. He said that between June 6th and the interview in August, the police had learned more information. One bit of information was that the Tacoma had traveled back and forth from New Canaan. Police also learned that there was a likelihood that Michelle Troconis was a contributor of one of the DNA samples on one of the bags that Fotis threw away. And they learned that Michelle Troconis accompanied Fotis to the car wash. So this answers an earlier question I had in respect to the car wash, whether it was Michelle who told the police that, or if they had got this information on their own. And the answer is that Michelle hadn't told them that previous to this. That does make a difference. So this is not looking good for the defense in respect to tampering with evidence. Then the prosecution introduced an exhibit, which is actually a repeat of 36 existing exhibits. It might appear at first that, oh boy, they're just doing this again where they keep repeating the same information over and over. But that's not actually what this was about. They took these exhibits and put it together in a cohesive timeline to make it easy for the jury to follow. And oh boy, this is not looking good for the defense. On May 24th at 12:22 p.m., you see the Tacoma arriving at Mountain Springs. Video from Eli Road shows a white Jeep going toward Mountain Springs at 1:32 p.m. And it's important to know that Michelle said that she was driving the Jeep. From Eli Road, you see the Suburban going toward Mountain Springs at 1:33 p.m. At Mountain Springs, you see the white Jeep arrive at 1:36 p.m. and 1 minute later, the Suburban arrives. At Mountain Springs, you see the Jeep leaving at 1:41 p.m. So this is only a couple of minutes later. Eli Road, you see the Jeep traveling toward Mountain Springs. That's at 1:58. Then you see the Jeep going back to Mountain Springs at 2:01 p.m. I remember earlier commenting that, boy, this was a lot of back and forth, not just for Michelle, but for Pavel too. At Mountain Springs, you see the Jeep leaving at 2:25 p.m. And then on a video from across the street at Jefferson Crossing, they show the house at 2:30 p.m. And the prosecution said, hey, look at the chimney on the far left of the house. Do you see smoke coming from the chimney? I thought this was really clever. This was good work. There's no smoke coming from the chimney. A little bit later, there is smoke coming from the chimney. And then at 3:12 p.m., there's no smoke coming from the chimney. At 3:25 p.m., there is smoke coming from the chimney. At 3:53 p.m., you see the Jeep traveling on Eli Road toward Mountain Springs. The Jeep arrives at Mountain Spring at 3:56 p.m. At 4:03 p.m., you see the Suburban leaving Mountain Spring. And at this point, Michelle has said that she was driving the Suburban. You see the Suburban on Eli Road going back toward Mountain Spring at 4:20 p.m. You see the Suburban arrive at Mountain Spring at 4:23 p.m. At 4:58 p.m., you see the Raptor entering Mountain Spring. At 5:02 p.m., you see the Raptor leaving Mountain Spring. At 5:02 p.m., you see the Jeep and the Suburban leaving Mountain Spring. Now, at this point, Michelle says, now it's Fotis driving the Suburban, and she is once again in the Jeep. The prosecution shows a picture of Jefferson Crossing at 5:03 p.m. There is no smoke coming from the chimney. And the prosecution pointed out a guy who was approaching the house across the street who's wearing shorts. And that is a great illustration of the fact that it's not like it was freezing cold out, so it would be a pretty weird time to have a fire in your fireplace if, in fact, that chimney is for a fireplace. At 5:06 p.m., you see the Jeep on Eli Road going toward Jefferson Crossing. At 5:14 p.m., you see the Raptor going to Mountain Spring. On Eli Road, you see the Suburban going to Mountain Spring at 5:21 p.m. You see the Suburban arrive at Mountain Spring at 5:23. You see the Suburban leaving again only 1 minute later at 5:24. At 5:27 p.m., you see the Tacoma leaving Mountain Spring. At 5:28, you see the Raptor leaving. At 5:31 p.m., you see the Suburban arrive at Fort Jefferson Crossing. They switch to Deer Cliff, and you see the Tacoma with the dirt bike in the back at 5:57 p.m. And that would be Pavel driving home with his bike. At 5:59 p.m., they point out that there is no smoke coming from the chimney at Fort Jefferson Crossing. At 6:42 p.m., you see smoke. At 6:44, there's still smoke. At 7:02 p.m., there's smoke coming out of the chimney. At 8:12 p.m., Fotis pulls in. Next, they're going to get into Michelle's third interview. That's going to be a separate video, and I'm behind, so it might be up late. Trust your gut. I'll see you in the comments.